Hello and welcome to today's demo where I will show you how to contribute to the Trino documentation and how welcome the community is and how easy it is to get started with our help. My name is Manfred Moser. I'm the Trino community broadcast host together with Brian and a regular contributor to documentation, and I'm joined again today by our ludicrously fast mascot, Commander Banban. So you want to contribute to a successful, well-known open source project? Well, Trino is a great project to get started with that, and we would love for you to help us. Helping with the documentation specifically is a good first step. So have a look at trino.io/doc/current to see what's there. And keep watching on the demo here to see how to contribute. So what do you need to start with the documentation? Well, you need the source code from GitHub at trino.db/Trino. Or if you want to contribute, you definitely also want to create your own fork. You'll have to learn more about Git, but this is beyond what I'm going to show you today. Otherwise, you just need a Unix operating system. Linux and macOS are very well tested. You can probably also get away with WSL2 or Cygwin and others. We don't really test them too often though. Specifically, what you actually going to need is Docker. And preferably a good editor like Visual Studio Code or whatever you prefer to edit text files. It has ideally RST/Sphinx support, a spell checker, maybe some Docker tooling, and even Git and GitHub support. But ultimately, you can write with whatever you like, as long as it can produce nice, clean text files. Now, building the documentation is really a straightforward process, and I'm going to show you. Let's have a look. Now, for the quick demo, I'm just going to clone the source code from GitHub with the URL I got from the GitHub user interface here, with the Git URL in this case. Now, I'm ready to start the documentation build by just going into the directory and running the docs/build command. If you have a look at this, it runs a Docker build, starts up the Docker container that then in turn uses the documentation source code in source main Sphinx, uses the Sphinx tool to render the source code RST files into HTML and places them in target HTML as an output, from where we can then inspect them with our browser. You see the output was generated in the target HTML directory, and I can open this, for example, here with my browser. And you see all the documentation is rendered just like I have it online on the live website, but here on a local copy on my local directory structure, and I can just inspect around what's going on or find any kind of problems, fix them, build again, and then everything will be verifiable, right, what it looks like, and I can start creating my contribution via a pull request. What else can I tell you about the documentation now that you've seen it in action? Well, it is written in what's called restructured text. So that's why we have these .rst files. The output is essentially rendered by a system called Sphinx and produces HTML that you then have available in the docs target HTML folder, where you can just view them as static files. When you write documentation, ideally you adhere to the Google Developer Documentation Style Guide, which helps you to decide sort of like how to use grammar, punctuation, and a whole bunch of other things that you don't really want to think about. Just follow the rules, and it's much easier to take care of making the documentation really well readable without having to have an English major or something like that. Lots more tips, including links to the style guide and many other aspects, are in our README, which you in fact have already available in your source code because you have that locally. When it comes to actually contributing a change to the documentation, this requires a bit more of a dance with Git. So here's a quick brief overview of what that entails. You will have to sign a CLA, but only the first time. Then you want to probably find an issue. We have GitHub issues where the docs and good first issue labels help you. But of course, you can also just read the documentation. If you find anything that you think is wrong, go submit a fix. You create a branch in your fork. You fix the issue. You commit on your local branch, push your branch to your fork, and send a pull request. That is when we come in play. We find out about your contributions. We are happily going to have a review of it, provide you some feedback probably. You'll then implement those updates locally, commit the change, push your changes, and with a bit of back and forth probably, we'll get it merged and you'll see your changes live in the next release. And you'll be so happy to see them live, and you will be able to call yourself a technical writer that contributed to a cool open source project like Trino. How great is that? Now, of course, you might end up with a bit of trouble here and there, but that's not a problem. Everyone runs into trouble. You can join us on the Trino community chat, trino.io/Slack, For lots of help, all of us are available, and we would love to get you started. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Manfred Moser, and I'll see you next time on the Trino Community Broadcast.